Go.
Welcome to the MLB Data Warehouse podcast, or are we going to call it Prospect Warehouse Pod? I think that's got a nice ring to it. Prospect Warehouse Pod.
Prospect Warehouse, yeah. We got to be careful with like copyright infringements and stuff too. I don't know what you can say and what you can't. But.
Yeah, I've never heard of a Prospect Warehouse. There's a tool shed. We're the warehouse, Prospect Warehouse. But this is the first ever episode of Prospect Warehouse Podcast.
I guess that's what we're naming it now. Now you didn't give us a choice. You called it, so there it is.
There it is, man. We'll Google it to make sure no one's jacked it before. But I like Prospect Warehouse Pod. It's really easy.
Let me tell you. The idea, like a data warehouse, is actually a technical term in the world of SQL databases and Oracle databases and stuff. So that's kind of where that comes from. I guess people don't really recognize that, but I'm also considering making all the themes, all like the articles and all the tools and stuff to have some kind of database naming thing that some of like the database guys like me would get a kick out of, but we'll see. But that's where the warehouse thing came from, because there is this actual thing in like a database situation as your data warehouse. So that's where that came from for you loyal listeners and readers.
Aren't those the largest buildings like in the country being built right now? Like data warehouse centers?
Well, probably server farms and stuff. Yeah, for all the cloud. Everybody thinks the cloud. You think of your stuff just goes nowhere, but no, it's on a server somewhere. Like there's a metal box somewhere where everything you save goes to. But I digress.
Yes. So if you're listening, you already know that I'm here. It's Tim at Fantasy Ace Ball, and John is here. John at PGH on the X Machine. So the two of us are here today. No Doc. Doc is busy. Doc is working. So you've just got us two here. And we're going to talk about Chicago White Sox top 20 prospects as we're doing our org ranks. That's going to be the first podcast that we're doing here for Prospect Warehouse Pod. But before we get into that, John, we have been doing a lot of back-end stuff. You and I have been releasing hitter F scores on X lately. So if you're not familiar, if you're uninitiated with the F scores, it's something that I developed a few years back. Basically, I built algorithms, equations that are to predict certain tools like hit tool, plate skills, stuff like that. And John and I have been talking about it for a couple of years, trying to figure out a way that we can get this thing automated so that it's not me spending ridiculous amounts of time manually entering data to get one F score that is basically usable at one time, like during the preseason only when you're drafting. And then like during the season, it's not even usable anymore because it fluctuates. So John, with his coding expertise here, has managed to get this thing live, not only for major league hitters, but also for minor league hitters. So we've got all the hitters basically kind of programmed right now. I think you're still working on some of the major league stuff, and we'll be moving to pitching shortly. But John, I just want you to talk quickly about kind of like some of the tweaks and stuff like this to make this work for minor leagues, because major leagues are quite a bit easier because you're pulling all the data from one level and we have a lot more data to work with. But minor leagues, we have varying data sets based upon different levels, and we have to weight everything back against each level. So instead of like major leaguers, it's like, hey, obviously all these guys are in the majors. We can weigh it back against the average major league stat or whatever it is. But for minor leagues, you're doing it all level by level. So everything's getting weighted back against each particular level, so that each F score is basically, this is how good this guy is compared to the average at this particular level.
Yeah, it's actually it's more math than I ever thought I would be doing in real life. When you're in high school and college and you have these math courses, you're like, I'm never going to use this in real life. And then like, here I am actually using it in real life. But you're right. Like everybody, well, not everybody, but the prospect guys, you all know at least about the Pacific Coast League, right? Like offense is majorly boosted in that, majorly boosted in those leagues. I don't know if that's about altitude or ballparks or whatever it is, but it's true, and it's something you've got to adjust for if you want a good projection. So my season long and my daily projections, the skill projection to kind of just figure out how good each player is, it all takes that into account, but that's put into account here as well. So, and it's really important to do in the minor leagues because, like you said, there are some of these leagues where it's just a way different environment. So slugging 425 in the major leagues isn't much, but to do that in Carolina League or whatever it is a bigger deal. So we get to weight that based on how they did relative to the environment. So these grades are pretty smart for that. Tim did he kind of knew the base. And over the few years you've tweaked it, and you've even done a lot of statistical research to find out what are the best stats, what are the most predictive and whatnot. So you kind of gave me the groundwork of what the formula should be. I had to tweak them and change them to make it fit more into code. But you're right. Now, after I code it all, after it's all done, it'll be a couple of clicks of a button to refresh them all. So we'll have it we'll probably update it once a month or something, I'd say, when next season comes around.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind is that when you see these tools, so just if you're looking at the hitter tools, again, that's not basically including at this point in time like an age to level bounce. I had someone like, oh, Sebastian Walcott is not as high as I expected for such a good prospect or whatever. But you have to keep in mind that he's playing above age to level. So there is actually, John and I have been texting back and forth working on a statistic to account for age to level bump. So we're going to be working on something that should give like a nice age to level modifier that you'll be able to find on the prospect analysis tools for Data Warehouse. So once you're subscribed and signed up, you should be able to see on there, oh, okay, this is the appropriate percentage increase or so, I should assume, based on like this guy being a 20-year-old playing at AA, or being 19, like Leo DeVries being 19 playing at high A or whatever, or Basayo last year, 20-year-old at AAA. Because there is, in the minors especially, like if you're playing way above the level that you normally would be, like we have to account for that like there is an age to level score bump. There's been a lot of research done on that. And it's kind of the same thing if you're like a 28-year-old at AAA raking. It's like it's not that impressive if you're doing, something at 28. If you're Ryan Ward leading AAA in home runs, it's not as impressive as if you're Samuel Basayo doing that as a 20-year-old. So hopefully this age to level modifier will help kind of like put the F scores in a little bit more of a perspective when you kind of add the two together and you're looking at both things.
Is that probably just because like experience levels, like I mean, and also, I think back when I was 19, I guess you're fully grown as like a man mostly, but I guess you can add muscle and athleticism a lot quickly and a lot more than someone a few years older than. But is that mostly the reason for it? Just that kind of experience and physical growth abilities, you think?
Yeah, it's those things together. And then like for pitchers, it's just kind of like learning how to pitch instead of just throw. So like for pitchers, there's a lot more that goes into it because it's more about like strategy and learning where best to use your pitches and stuff like that. Whereas hitters, it's all about like, okay, some guys have like a naturally like amazing like plate approach. And that's why like one thing that is really important to me as a prospector for hitters is like, I know that there's gonna be less volatility when a guy changes levels if they have a good plate approach from the beginning. So that's why like a guy like Gunnar Henderson could come to the majors and be pretty good right off the bat versus like a guy like Zach Cole, who has hit a lot of home runs lately for the Astros, but the dude was rocking a 35% K rate in AAA. That's probably not going to transition very well over a large sample size until he kind of gets the in the swing of things. So plate approach is very important when you're transitioning between levels. But as a baseball person, we know that most hitters peak around 26. So like that's why like if you're 28 and you're like post peak in AAA hitting, it's like not or like you're in your peak in AAA, like it's not going to get better at that point. If you're 20 years old, you're nowhere near that peak yet. You're still improving. You're still growing as a hitter. So there's a significant age to level bump that needs to be considered for just muscular growth, for learning how to view pitches, for learning levels. And especially like a lot of that too, John, has to do with like position. Like if you're playing shortstop or catcher or something like that, it's a little bit harder. Like you're going to transition a little bit slower than if you're left fielder or something like that, just because like there's less less focus on, hey, I just need to hit versus like I need to do all these things well at this level to progress.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll have another podcast to go over this more. We'll get into the technical details another time. I think it's important to do that, but we should get to these White Sox guys. So a lot more technical talk coming, and all the tools that you're about to see, they're not quite finished yet. but I will finish them up in October, I hope, and release to everybody. It's funny we're doing this on October 2nd, but this is what you have to do when you're going to cover all 30 teams with like the delicacy or the in-depthness that they should. Like I start writing my MLB fantasy baseball team previews like in October usually, and then it takes me till January to finish them. So we're starting early. Maybe people don't care as much right now, but the fact that we're doing this all winter will I think it'll be the best, actual, most in-depth content out there, and I appreciate Tim kind of taking the reins for it. But let's get into it.
Yeah, it's going to give you some nice entertainment while you're watching football. So,
Yes.
top 20 White Sox. We're going to start from the bottom, and we've got here number 20 Peyton Pallette, who is a reliever with some crazy strikeout numbers. Grant Umberger is number 19. He is a starting pitcher who actually put up some really good numbers this year. But one of the things is he barely pitched in high A, so he was in low A most of the season as a 23-year-old. So like age to level, like we just talked about, like he's like a negative score there for a pitcher. So that's why he's not higher in the rankings, despite having like really nice back of the baseball card stats. 18 is Jairo Iriarte. That's a name that a lot of people know because he was traded in the Dylan Cease trade. He is kind of flamed out because his walk rates are terrible command. Number 17 is Jacob.
Wasn't he on the Braves? Wait, so he was on the.
He was on the Padres. He was like a top 5 prospect for the Padres at one point.
I think I was thinking of Ender Inciarte probably with the Braves thing. Yeah, you're right. Padres.
Yeah. Yeah. So he came over in the Dylan Cease trade. He was actually like, it was him and Drew Thorpe were kind of like the big guys in the Dylan Cease trade. Obviously, Drew Thorpe had Tommy John surgery last year and no longer prospect eligible. I think he surpassed his innings threshold there. But yeah, Iriarte was like supposed to be the big guy, and now he's kind of like in reliever status, and his command sucks. So like he still is on my list. He's still on the radar. I still think he makes like a major league bullpen, but like, is that really what you want for Dylan Cease? Probably not. Number 17 is Jacob Gonzalez, who's a middle infielder. Has not really performed up to the levels that was expected because he's a former first rounder. In 2023, he was their first round pick. Known for having a good hit tool at the time that he was selected and some nice power potential. And like, it's kind of weird because like you're a Pirates fan, so you like know Nick Gonzalez. And I kind of like bucket these two Gonzaleses together where they're like first round guys. We're supposed to have good hit tools and kind of like are not as good as they should have been. So I don't know what's up with like Gonzalez first round middle infield types, but not good. I don't think they're related. 16, this is kind of the guy in this tier that I wanted to focus on, is Mason Adams.
I lost my view. We had a nice view there, and I lost it. We're still learning the controls here.
Yeah, don't worry. We've got a fancy schmancy podcasting YouTube.
There it goes. All right, I'm just going to leave it here until you're ready to show some profiles. Let me know. I'll stop touching it.
We're gonna show Mason Adams here. So Mason Adams is a pitcher, and remember the F scores right now are going to be on hitters only because the pitchers are still in development. But Mason Adams is a guy that did not play in 2015, so we're only going to have 2014 data from Mason Adams because he had Tommy John surgery. At the beginning
2025. You just said 2015 and 20. Where'd you go, Tim? My goodness.
You can see if you're watching on YouTube. It was my birthday the other day, and I'm in my late 30s now. So I'm at the point in time where birthdays have become a negative instead of a positive. So, I don't know. I've got old guy syndrome, I guess, at this point.
So let's do this. Let me show, because one addition for, I think a lot of the people that are listening to this are somewhat familiar with these tools, but I did make an ad. You said this is Mason Adams, right?
Yes. So
this is the one. We got to clear the year because he didn't pitch this year, like you said. I've put player ages on this now, which helped me a lot. So you now can see the guy's age, 25.6 for Adams, and there you go. You can see nothing since 2024. Because before I would be looking at, trying to make a sick tweet and get sick impressions, and I'd go like, let's clear that and go to, who hit the most home runs in the minors this year or something, and you said, get rid of MLB. And I think you said this guy earlier, Ryan Ward or something's his name. Yeah, he led 36 homers. So it's like, oh, whoever he plays for, they might be calling him up. But I could never look at the age. So now it's right there for you, so you can actually know, like, okay, that guy can be ignored, something like that. So that's a good addition there. But if do you want to look at this this guy's profile or just move past?
Yeah, we'll talk about him real quick. So Mason Adams is a guy that obviously he's coming off Tommy John surgery, so that hurt his prospect status. He was probably a top 15 guy in the org before the TJ. But I think that he has the potential to be a major league back end starter. So he's one of these guys in a deep league who might have at like some like hidden sneaky value, especially because he's coming off the TJ and because he already has pitched in AAA and he's like 24. So there's a good shot that he could actually break camp for the White Sox next year in the rotation, or at least be maybe like their number 6 swing guy. So if you're in a super deep league, like I don't think he's going to be, a stud or anything like that. But I do think that he could pitch to like a 4 ERA and be solid. He could be a decent guy. So if you're in a super deep league, I think Mason Adams is a guy to watch.
Looks like didn't rely too much on velo. Does that that kind of helps these guys that are coming off injuries, right? Because they never really needed the full thrust, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was only throwing 92. The funny thing is a lot of guys, when they come back from TJ, they'll be throwing harder. So maybe he's up to like 93, 94 and helps the fastball play up a little bit. You see that we've got the movement scores on here right now. And kind of like most people know IVB rather than vertical break. So like on the fastball, you see a 6.9 vertical movement. About the adjustment you should be making if you want to think in IVB terms is it's about 7 miles an hour. It's like between like 6.8 to 8 difference depending on the pitcher style, like how much gravity, taking away the gravity is going to come into effect. So if you want to think about it from an IVB standpoint, he might be like a 13 or 14 inch break, which is below average. So the fastball right now is playing below average, but he's a good command guy. He doesn't walk anybody. You see 5.9% walk rate, which is really good, especially AAA. And he relies mostly on the breakers, 17.1% swinging strike rate on the slider. So that's a pretty good, and he's throwing the slider, 84.5, almost 85 miles an hour. That's the velocity that is pretty solid on a slider. That's like your make or break velo on a slider. So he's running breaking pitches with good command, basically, is his MO.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So now we're going to get to 15 through 11. 15, Javier Mogollon. That's a guy we're going to come back to because his F scores are ridiculous. 14, Samuel Zavala. For whatever reason, like Samuel Zavala's cousin or brother or something keeps tagging me, and it's like, Zavala's awesome. Like, talk more about Zavala. And I'm just like, okay, so here you go. Shout out.
That is the best. And we mentioned, we saw it with Doc last time, how the Kellen Moss prospect for the Pirates, they're like boys now. Because and you can do that. I mean, that's like almost a business model to just like become boys with all these, like Brandon Pfaadt. I was hyping him up a few years back when he was in the minors, and he like followed me. And I have a ton of prospects that are young players that their parents follow me. What was his name? What was that Cubs guy a few years ago? He had Jake Slaughter. Remember him?
Yes.
I guess he flamed out. He's not going to make it.
No, he's not on my top 20 for the Cubs.
All right, but his dad would we would talk all the time. Every time I would talk about Jake Slaughter, and I of course, it was just about the name. Like, your name's Slaughter. That's incredible. But, so you can get in with these guys and these minor leaguers, they're making $25K. They don't feel like they're rich and famous, and they don't have a lot of Twitter following and stuff. So you can pretty much just like become boys with these guys, hype them up, and then maybe they'll give you a kickback if they ever hit. So that's a new idea for a side business here for me.
Yes, just talk about random guys until their family members love you enough.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so back on the list, I think we were at 13, right? William Bergolla. William Bergolla is very interesting. Really good hit tool, really good plate skills, walks more than he strikes out, but zero power. Basically, he's like Jacob Wilson with literally no power. It's like what he's like. He's a minor leaguer, like great hit tool, great plate skills, steals bags, zero power. So maybe like Triantos is maybe like a better comp. But he's a 20-year-old at AA, so age to level, he's got that. But like this dude cannot even get a 100 ISO. Like his ISO on the season was 0.47.
No. Hold on.
You're showing a Kindle book right now.
That was the Bible, but
oh, there we go.
The swipe thing, it took me to my other screen and it backed me on.
William Bergolla. Let's see. Oh, there we go. 64 F score on the power. Terrible. But that 163 discipline, look at that. And 173 speed. So this is a guy who could be interesting. But the thing is, like, when you have that low power, that little power, sometimes, like in the majors, it'll never work because it's like you can't.
Why would you even go to the major? Yeah, they have to be less interested in calling you up if they know you're going to be a zero in homers in today's league, at least. But I mean, it works out for some guys. But we should say here, just for anybody totally new, 100 is going to be average here. So we do all this on that grading, like the WRC plus, ERA plus. 100's average. Pretty much, I mean, we're trying to control. I'm trying to control this to be between 50 and 150, but we can't really make it do. The math works out how it does, but anything like above 125 is crazy. So these are pretty crazy numbers here, 163, 173, just to try to set the base there for everybody that is kind of learning this.
Yep, and then the hit tool is generally going to have less variance than the other tools. So you'll see like the hit tool I think only ranges from like 85 to 120 or something like that.
Let me show you that. Let's pull up the and this is a little bit of a work in progress as well, but this takes your F scores and I did a grading. I weighted this. I didn't ask for your input on how to weight these. I weighted power, hit tool the highest, I think discipline third, and then speed and durability pretty low. But here's
the way to do it. That's exactly how I did it.
Okay,
that's
great.
That's exactly how I would weight it.
Ball knowledge, the ball knowledge.
Yep. So look at that.
So
we're going to come back and talk about Mogollon there. So he's.
But you can see, so Bergolla was at 163, and then so that's crazy because everybody else is kind of concentrated around 30% higher or lower than average, but he's up there at 163 because of that. I mean, what's that about? Just Ks and walks. There, it doesn't strike out. It doesn't really walk either, but no Ks.
4.5% K rate is insane.
Yeah, that is insane, and that breaks stuff. Like some of these numbers are so far out of like MLB K rates. You think about this, almost everybody is between 15 and 30%. But then you have Lodise Rise, and then the other problem with podcasting is now I have to say these names, and I don't know how to say any of them, so I'm gonna really jack that up. But everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say Lodise Rise. Like he's got like a 5 or 6% K rate in the majors, and when it creates like a 250 point hit tool for him or discipline, whatever it is, and it just kind of breaks everything. But we're working on that. But that's the point. I mean, a sub 5% K rate is ridiculous. But pretty much the only way to do something like that is by having no power, right? Because it means you're just kind of putting the bat out there.
Yep, exactly. Outliers need to work up more on like standard deviation level. So Kyle Lodise is going to be next. He's number 12. He was the 3rd round pick for the White Sox this year. Not a good batting average, but bad BABIP. But he's got power and speed, so he's an interesting name. And he only played in a small sample size, only 28 games. But I like Kyle Lodise. I think his brother, I don't know if it's a brother or cousin, I can't remember off the top of my head, was drafted by the Braves. So there's 2 Lodises, so you might get confused. But his name is Alex Lodise. So there's Kyle is the White Sox and Alex is the Braves, and they were both drafted in like the 2nd and 3rd round this year.
I've also got the problem I see on the White Sox on the grades. There's a guy named Benjamin Cowles and then a guy named Ben Cowles. So guys will just change their freaking names in the middle of the year, or at least like MLB enters them differently, and then I get duplicates. So you'll see that sometimes. There's just so many minor leaguers that it's hard to really keep everything straight.
Yeah, there was a pitcher for the Dodgers, Sean Lennon, now goes by Sean Paul Lennon, so he must be a reggae fan.
Terrible.
Yes. 11, we've got Sam Antonacci. This is one of the other guys I want to talk about in this tier here. So Sam Antonacci, super underrated dude. He's actually going to be in the Arizona Fall League, and he's number 11. So let's look at Javier Mogollon real quick, John, because he's a guy that I had way lower just looking at back of the baseball card numbers. And then as soon as his F scores popped out, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a guy that we actually have to really pay attention to. And the funny thing is that like he's just, I don't know, just kind of like a similar profile. A lot of these White Sox guys have similar profiles where they just like don't strike, like they're not striking out a ton. So it's kind of interesting. Like he's, 20 something percent. So it's not, too great like the other guy. But his BABIP is kind of holding him down a little bit. So he's an interesting dude. 5 home runs, 15 steals, only played in 51 games this year. So that's why if you look at like the back of the baseball card numbers and you're looking only at counting stats, it's not going to be too high. But 19-year-old at A-ball this year and just ridiculous F scores. So I had to bump him up just based on that because he was like one of the highest. I think when you went back to that chart, he was like top 20 or 30 F scores based on like what we were getting. So one of the things to consider too is that some of these guys don't have Florida State League. So he's a non-Florida State League guy being on the White Sox. So we don't have some of the other data that we would have on like a Rainiel Rodriguez with the Cardinals who played Florida State League. So we don't have like as much data on some guys that we do on other guys, but 132 power, 177 speed, crazy F scores here.
Okay. How often
Yep.
does someone go from a big F score one year to just completely falling off the map the next?
It's more volatile for minor leagues than for major leagues, obviously,
Yeah.
which I mean should make sense because the major league guys are kind of like more steady. So minor league guys can be pretty iffy. The good thing is that we have like per level balances here. So like Mogollon's stats are all based on everyone else at his level, right? So his F scores, when you look at that, that's all based on everyone else at the same level that he was playing at, which gives a little more insight than just looking at stats. Because if you're just looking at the stats, you might say, oh, these stats suck or something like that. And it's like, well, you're just looking, and maybe everybody else in that league was also not great because maybe it's Carolina League, which is a very tough league to hit in. Or maybe it's Southern League, which is also a very tough league to hit in. So there's going to be differences like we talked about earlier, depending on the league that the F scores are going to kind of like take out of the equation. So that kind of helps because it's all based on like other things. His main thing is quality of contact, John. That's why he's playing so well because he pulls it 51% of the time, and he's hitting a lot of fly balls, 44% fly ball rate. So really quality angles, barely hits the ball on the ground, 34% ground ball rate. So that's kind of like what helps him play up is just very
Yeah.
quality contact, good angles for this
Here's
guy.
a picture of that. The Carolina League, the pitchers had a 0.6 home run per nine, by far the lowest in professional baseball. The major league average is what, like 1.2 or something. So
Yeah.
you have to adjust for that for sure. Yeah, like so there are half the number of homers hit in this Carolina League than the major league. So anybody hitting, a 20 homer season in the Carolina League would be more like 35 or so if you adjust for that. So that's something important to see. Always interesting to see that stuff.
Yep. Now, if you want to pull up Sam Antonacci real quick, Sam Antonacci, 22-year-old at Double A, middle infielder, has actually played a little bit of third base too. But he's just a really solid player. Like nothing really special stands out here. Not a lot of power, but good plate scores, good hit tool. You can see 103 hit tool, 127 discipline, then a 175 speed. He does get caught stealing a decent amount of time, but he's really aggressive on the base path, so that's going to help that speed score play up. So the speed score, kind of behind the scenes here, is based on how much is this person running based on how many times they're getting on base. So it's going to be like, okay, how
Right
many
here.
stolen bases
Yeah.
does this guy have minus caught stealings, depending on like how much they're on the base. Because like one of the things that we were texting about too, even like Max Clark, I was like, man, Max Clark is fast. I feel like his speed score should be higher. And then you're like, is he just not as aggressive as like you would think on the bases? And it's like, yeah, it's true. He only ran 22 times or something like that,
Yeah.
despite being on base all the time.
Yeah.
So Sam
12% attempt
Antonacci
rate.
here,
The
yeah,
attempt rate is, I think that's what I used. I tweaked yours a little bit. Attempt rate is how many attempts, so steals plus caught, divided by how many times I estimate that you were on first base. So it's not official. It's just like singles, walks, and hit by pitches. So that's how I do that. But
yep.
it is pretty good at seeing that, and that's a good example with Max Clark there. Good speed, but didn't try that much. I mean, and that can change in a hurry, like we just saw with Juan Soto. Like steals is one that it's just about do you want to or not. So, but we should kind of adjust for that. I shouldn't give somebody a high speed score if they're really fast but don't run, because for fantasy we don't care how fast they are. We care how many bases they steal. So.
Yep, exactly. And you can see, even look at the season before, a 23% stolen base attempt rate.
Yeah.
So he literally like cut it in half. Maybe that's something the team was telling him, or maybe it's because he was hitting third or something this year instead of first. So like that's something that you have to really kind of like look into and be like, why was he not running so much? But
Let's
that's
look at
something that
that.
really just popped to me in the F scores.
Just to get a somewhat of a gauge on that, 18% is the league average here. And like some of these guys, so like Terrence Gore, is that his name? I think you might have even mentioned him
Yeah.
last time we talked. He'll have like 150% stolen base attempt rate because of those pinch running. Like he'll get an attempt without getting a single, a hit, or a hit by pitch because he didn't even bat. Like he'll just come in and pinch run, so you get to see some wonky stuff like that. But yeah, the big guys will be above 50, 60%. League average around 18%. Anything single digits kind of bad. And if you're in the mid teens, you'll steal 15 to 20 bases on average in the majors. So that's how that goes.
Yep. So top 10, we've got number 10, George Wolkow, power speed guy. I've comped him to like basically he's the White Sox version of Spencer Jones, like terrible strike rate, bad hit tool, but like power and speed is there. Number 9 is Tanner McDougal, a pitcher. I think he's probably going to be in the rotation, so he's an interesting dude.
I've heard
Number
that name
8,
before. Why have I heard that name? Did he make the majors for a second?
he's really close. He's
Okay.
double A. Yeah, so he is not in the majors.
Tanner McDougal.
But he's solid. So like basically on the season, 28.3% K rate. So he's striking dudes out. And when he got to Double-A, the walk rate went down from 12 to 7%. So he's been improving as the season has gone on. So interesting name, Tanner McDougal. I think he could be up next year. Probably not to start the year like I think Adams would be, but he's a guy who'll probably be up in like the middle of the season, I would think. Number 8 is Billy Carlson, who was the first-round pick for the White Sox. And he's more of like a glove first guy. So there's a lot of people that are going to see Billy Carlson was a top 10 pick in this year's draft. And if you don't know and you're just like doing a first year player draft and you're looking at, oh, who did the teams take? And you're like drafting based on that. Billy Carlson is not like a fantasy, superstar in the making because he's glove first. Like people say he's got an 80 grade glove. But like the hit tool to me, like I think he could be like a 50 hit, which is like league average. And like he thinks, and this is the weird thing, like I watch like interviews on these guys, like we talked about, I do a lot of in-depth stuff. And he's like, oh, I think I can be like Fernando Tatis Jr. And I'm like, I don't know, man, you're really skinny. Like you gotta add like 50 pounds of muscle or something to be a Fernando Tatis Jr. So I don't really see that playing out. Like you can wish that you can be Fernando. Like I want to be Fernando Tatis Jr. See, I just said it on this podcast. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
But you appreciate the believing in yourself, I guess. Did he not even make it to like a high level? Because he's not on the dashboard at all.
I don't think he played. I think he's because he was a high schooler, so he was. I think he was only playing in the Bridge League, which is like basically the instructional training league or whatever. And he'll probably debut. I don't know if he'll.
This is crazy. His Baseball Reference page is just straight blank. I've never seen that before, but. This is what we're doing here. First of all, Billy Carlson, that does sound like a name where the guy can't hit, but he's like a great center fielder or whatever he is. It just has that name. You're right, 10th overall pick. So this is the difference that I need to reset my mind because to me, I've only ever played like redraft or like a couple keepers, like leagues where we're not really getting into the prospects that much. And to me, in my head, it's like, okay, you just said this guy's not going to hit in the majors, so what are we doing? But when you're playing a 20-team dynasty league or something insane, like the one we're going to start up, and the ones that a lot of you guys play, and probably all of you playing it if you're listening to this, like, I guess you don't even really want good hitters as much. Well, you do, but you also just kind of want guys that'll get into the lineup. Like, that's the depth of those leagues. So I got to just, like, reset my mind on this.
Yeah, dude, if you have an 80 grade glove, like, you're going to play every day.
Yeah.
Number 7 is Jeral Perez. That's or Jeral, probably because he's Spanish. We'll come back to him real quick after we talk about 6, Jaden Fauske. I love Fauske. He was the White Sox second round pick. So you see, I have their second rounder ranked above their first rounder for fantasy purposes because Fauske is a better hitter. Like I love his swing, great swing. I think he's going to be a stud. We have no data on him yet because it's the same thing. He's a high school guy. Who has not debuted, so there's really no point to try to look at his data. But let's look at Perez real quick because this is a guy who scores really well in the F scores, and when we consider H to level, he's going to do pretty well in that too because he's a 20-year-old who was playing in high A the whole season this year, and I want to say that the average age of high A is like 22, 20. It's like closer to 22 than 21, but I think it's between 21 and 22.
I can answer that. Let me answer that. Let's see if this works. So now that we have age, what you can do is just from a Tableau knowledge perspective, you can pick your level here. Oh, I got to get rid of that. So get rid of the StatCast games only thing and then go to high A, and what you'll see, that's 27. Never mind. Okay, that doesn't take the average. That doesn't work. That took the max, it looks like, so forget it. But you can at least kind of rip through these names and see what you're kind of looking at. Yeah, it looks like.
We'll have it. We're working on it. We'll have the H to level bump. We'll have the factor in there. Don't worry. It's coming. Work in progress. But you can see here, 121 power, 101 hit, 102 discipline. So he's a really good hitter that has bad speed. So 66 speed. So he's not fast. And one of the things, too, is you can't consider speed only for stolen bases. You have to think about speed and hit tool go together to create a good batting average, right? You want to have quality angles on the ball. You want to have good contact, but you also need to have speed to run really high batting averages. If you're slow as crap, you're going to run out less of those ground balls, and that means that you're going to have a lower batting average. Like you could have a good hit tool like Max Muncy, but then if you're Albert Pujols on the bases like a statue making your way down the baseline, like you're not going to have as high of a batting average. That's just something to consider, that the speed tool does affect batting average at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to combine your hit and your speed if you're trying to guesstimate how high of a batting average somebody's going to have.
This is a good one too. Swing rates. If you're just kind of curious, I mean, it all plays into these F scores. This is really just nice. If you just want a quick, the best thing about the F scores, I think, if you just want a quick idea of who a player is, what to maybe expect as a baseline at least, you can go right here and just kind of see it, and it breaks it down into the 5 categories. But swing rate is one that I've looked at more over the years, and with minor leaguers, I guess it's pretty telling. I mean, it can change because that's an approach thing. I'm sure it's not that rare to see a guy completely change his approach, but a 45 to 47% swing rate's about average. I know major league is 47%. I think minor leagues is a little bit lower, but if you're swinging a lot, that means you're not going to walk, so you're not going to get on base. Those two things are super correlated, swing rates and walk rates. Anytime you see a swing rate around 40% or below, Soto's, the Dylan Carl or the Lars Nootbaars of the world and stuff, you're going to get a lot of walks. But as we've talked about a lot before, like it doesn't help your batting average at all. It doesn't mean you can't hit for a good batting average, but it doesn't help. You're taking a lot of strikes, and you're also just giving up opportunities for home runs and stuff. So that's a good. Just think of like 46% of the around the league average, and that would play into the discipline score.
Yep, exactly. So number 5, we're going to kind of go through the top 5 more in depth here. Number 5 is Noah Schultz. Noah Schultz for me was a top 50 prospect at the beginning of the season.
This was crazy.
He's dropped completely off of my top 150 because he had such a terrible season.
How does that happen?
What happens is the fastball was not performing as well. It's kind of like plays as like a maybe average to slightly above average fastball, and he was not throwing it as much. He was throwing the sinker way more for whatever reason. I don't know if that's something that he was doing on his own or that's something that the team was telling him to do. But when you look at the pitch level, like the per pitch data, you can see he was throwing his sinker 40% of the time when he was at AAA, and the fastball only 8% of the time. And he's a guy that is primarily like fastball, slider, curve are like his big pitches. His changeup actually performed pretty well too, but like when he was coming up, it was more like fastball, slider, curve. He's a giant, like 6'7", 6'8", and his main thing is he's huge and he has good extension. And he needs to lean more into being a Randy Johnson instead of let me throw a sinker a bunch and hope I get ground balls. Like, this is a dude who should be a strikeout guy. And for whatever reason, they don't want him to be a strikeout guy or whatever, or he's trying to get ground balls just so he can get, like more pitches per inning pitched. One of the things I had you add to the Tableau pages is I had you add pitch count per inning pitched, which I think is very telling. I think that's very important because it helps you see how efficient that this pitcher is in getting through innings. And is this a guy who can get you quality starts and wins and stuff like that? Or is this a guy that has a lot of Ks but works really hard to get a lot of Ks?
Yeah, 14.5 last year. That's good. This year up to 17.6 while the K rate came down. Walk rate went way up. I mean, I remember him because he was one of the guys. He was the top 3 or 4 like redraft pitchers to draft. I mean, he was going in, not standard leagues by any means, but I do a lot of those NFBC drafts where it's like 50 rounds. He was getting taken in the top 35, 40 rounds every time because he just looked so dominant the year before. The White Sox clearly needed rotation help. I think he had a pretty good spring, or at least he came and kind of everybody just saw how big he was, and he got some strikeouts of some major leaguers and stuff like that, and then just disaster for him. So that's crazy. But if you can go down that far in 1 year, it's reasonable to think that you can come right back up too. So he's someone to watch. I would, that's one of the few I actually know of here. So
yeah, that's why I kind of have him like right outside of the top 150, where it's like he did enough damage to himself that he's like not, like there's guys I like better now at this point. But
he stayed healthy, right?
He's not completely off the radar. I think at the end of the season he stopped pitching, and I'm not really sure if that's them trying to work with him, and it's like one of those like phantom things, or if there was actually like an injury. I believe that he's going to be in the Arizona Fall League this year, so that is something. Yeah, he had a knee issue, so he did at the end of the season. They took him out for a slight knee issue, but like that was at the very end of the year, and he's supposed to pitch in the Fall League.
So he didn't pitch in September, yeah.
Yeah, you can even see by the JAERA. Look at the JAERA last year was like 2.31, and then this year was like 4 or whatever. So
I got to add a year box on it. I don't have that. The pitcher stuff is still in work in progress. Right now, I'm just kind of moving this date slider back, but I'll put a box here to pick the year because this new dashboard that people will have 2 years worth of data, which I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't think Tableau could really handle that much. This is a 3 gigabyte CSV file behind this, and I think that's probably about the max. I don't think I'll be able to go another year. Like this one over here has 5 years worth because it's just box scores. So for the technical people, this dashboard with just kind of the, you don't have the advanced swinging strike rates, the swing rates and stuff, those, because those are determined at the per pitch level. This dashboard is based on just one entry for each player per game. So I get 5 years for like less than a gigabyte of space. This one over here has a row with a ton of detail for every pitch thrown. So this thing's massive, but a 3 gigabyte file, like it takes a few minutes to load and to save and to send over and to refresh and stuff, but Tableau handles it. So we've got 2 years worth of minor league stuff on here, which is really cool to have.
Yep. Next, number 4 is Christian Oppor with the White Sox. Oppor was my number 151 guy. So he was literally one spot out from being in my top 150 rankings during my last rankings update. I love his stuff. He does have some walk issues right now, but he's a lefty that has that really 3/4 arm slot and big time fastball slider. Like he reminds me a lot of Nick Lodolo. Hopefully he stays healthier than Lodolo throughout his career. But 20-year-old pitched at high A the majority of the season, tons of strikeouts in this profile. And I think that his pitches, because the fastball slider combo is so good, like he could be like a big time strikeout guy. For him, it's going to be more developing the arsenal because right now he only has 3 pitches. Literally, he throws fastball, slider, changeup. That's it. And I think that if he can develop a arsenal with a couple more get a couple more pitches mixed in here and kind of get the changeup to be a better pitch instead of a below average pitch, at least get it to like a 50 grade changeup, then he could be a super stud. He could be one of these like big strikeout fantasy assets. So, yeah.
Dominant against righties too. You said he's a left-handed pitcher. It's surprising to see a 34% K rate, 18% swinging strike rate against righties. It's usually the reverse there.
Yeah, he likes to back foot the slider. He's like a big time back foot slider guy, because his slider, like I said, really mechanically and like pitch wise, he reminds me of Nick Lodolo with like the big slider and kind of like the really like 3/4 arm slot where that slider has a lot of movement to it. I think the reason that the slider doesn't play as well against lefties is that the lefties know when it's coming. Like they see it break because it has such a hard break. Like it breaks so much, like it's got so much movement to it that they know when it's coming. And then they just don't swing at it and it ends up outside of the zone. So I think that's kind of like his lefty problem, which is why like he needs to develop like a splitter or like a 2-seamer or a sinker or something that comes back the other way against lefties.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So number 3 on the list, we've got Hagen Smith. This is my first top 150 guy we're going to talk about. Hagen Smith had a lot of command issues too. He was like a top 40 guy for me coming into the season, and I think that he ended up like in the 60s in my last rankings update because of command issues, but he actually finished the season really strong. So if you want to bring up Hagen Smith, we can look at how he finished the season, because I want to say that his command issues, when we bring up the game tracker, you can see that he did a lot better except for the last start. Look, 6 walks in the last start. But he did a lot better about throwing the ball in the zone towards the end of the season. Like you're getting some closer to 50% strike rates on some of those games, which really, like, if you want to have, if you don't want to have command issues, you need to have an over 50% strike rate like per game as you're increasing. And that's something that I looked at for Jacob Misiorowski, for instance, who had a lot of command issues in the past before his breakout season this year. I was watching this games tracker that you have here on this tool, the game logs, and I could see the walks going down per game and the strike rates going up per game. And I'm like, Miz is getting better in his command. And that's why I had him ranked so high compared to a lot of the other prospect guys prior to his promotion, where all of a sudden he came on the scene and everyone's like, oh, this guy's amazing. It's like I knew he was going to be good because I was tracking what he was doing on a game basis.
But then he gave it all back.
That might just be him being tired as crap because he's pitched more innings this year after the end of the year here. So you got to give a little bit of that for some of these young guys.
Will we see him this weekend? Did he make the? I guess we don't know yet if he made the roster, but I guess we'll see him out.
He's got to be on the roster. Like I think that that talent, like maybe you just pitch him out of the bullpen because that swinging strike rate is stuff. That swinging strike stuff is so good. So you just play him like Josh Hader out of the bullpen or whatever at the end of the year here. But Hagen Smith coming on strong at the end of the year. Again, kind of similar things as like Oppor. really good stuff though. Like once we get stuff scores, like he might be like one of the top guys once we get our F scores for pitchers here when it comes to stuff.
Oops, I had that
But his
filtered
command
on.
is probably going to also be pretty bad.
Okay. Yeah,
Number
I'm gonna get a Stuff Plus model figured out. I think the artificial intelligence bot can finally help me with that. I've never been able to do it myself, but I'll figure it out this winter at some point. But it'll only apply to A ball and Triple A. So
Yep, but we'll
coming.
still have that'll be able to be something that the F scores can pull into. But we're gonna also have stuff and a command and durability F scores for pitchers.
Yes.
Once that gets programmed. Number 2, we've got outfielder Braden Montgomery with the White Sox. He was actually the Red Sox first round pick last year, and he came over in the Garrett Crochet trade. So Braden Montgomery is a guy that had a really strong first half this year, and then a pretty rough second half, and got hurt at the end of the year too. I kind of think that we're going to see more from him. I think that his discipline should be better. Like at the beginning of the season, it was better and it got worse. So it's kind of trending. One of the things with the F scores is that we're pulling from different sample sizes. So you're getting weighted sample sizes on proximity, like the last half of a season, more or less, or we've got like a proximity one of like 150 at bats. Then we've got one of like half of the season. Then we've got the full season. And then we've got a couple years back. So we're pulling different weights of different proximities. So there's kind of like a trending perspective when it comes to the F scores. So like there is like like a guy who's kind of hot towards the end of the season is going to have higher F scores than just like pulling it from over a full season. But Montgomery has a lot of growth here. Like I think that like he's got a good hit, he's got a good power, he's got speed potential, and I think those F scores are going to pull up some once he kind of stabilizes himself. And he is a true switch hitter. Like it shows their hits.
Do you like that? Do you like switch hitters more? Is it like a tiebreaker thing for you, or does it not matter?
A lot of the time I don't, because you get a guy like Cedric Mullins who actually sucks against one side and is kind of just like a gimmick that gets him up. But one of the things that's great about your pages is that we have splits, and you can see if someone's a good switch hitter or if they're a crappy switch hitter when you look at their splits. And Montgomery is a true switch hitter. Like his splits are pretty even across the board. So, yeah, there you go. So he's actually like true switch hitter. You see 273 average against righty, 261 against lefties. Because you will get switch hitters that suck versus one side and they're great versus another. And you can see there's even a balance of power where like 5 home runs against righties, 7 against lefties. So you can see he is better from the right side power-wise with the 878 OPS. Better from the right side against lefties from a power spot. But like contact-wise, he's pretty good against both sides. So he's a true switch hitter. Which, I mean, that means it's probably going to stick long term.
Yeah. A couple dashboard notes. Again, if this is the first time you're seeing this is a pretty ugly page, a lot of white space. It's because this stuff kind of... Actually, I don't know why the game log thing wouldn't be working. Statcast game. I don't know. But these plots and stuff, the EV, launch angle stuff, batted ball profile, that's all going to be only A+ and AAA. So when you have a player like we do here, it's not even all advanced A, high A, right? I got to get my terms right. Not even all of those leagues, just some of them. So if you see blanks, it just means that the guy hasn't played in the league with Statcast public data. In a few years, right? I don't know. Every year I keep thinking that they'll turn that on for all leagues. That would be amazing if they do, but for now it's still limited in the minors.
Yeah, it depends on the stadiums, because some stadiums do at certain levels. Like I know that the Cardinals are like one team that like they were like so far behind development and they've sucked. And Chaim Bloom has come in. That's one of the things that he's talked about during his press conference the other day, is that they're adding TrackMan and Hawkeye and all this stuff to all their stadiums at all levels. Which that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get the data, though.
Right, that's one thing.
Because they could just hoard it for themselves. Because there are teams that have a lot of data and they don't share it.
Why would you make it public? I don't even understand why like some leagues show it. I don't know.
I think that they may make it public depending on if MLB makes them, because guess what? We're going to have next year, there's going to be a new collective bargaining agreement. And one of the things that MLB can do to like boost its profile is to like put more emphasis on the minor leagues, especially now if there's less teams. It's something that more people can follow. And if they want to make that data available to people as like a marketing effort, then they may. One thing that we've been kind of talking about that I'll share behind the scenes is that on the pages, we're hoping to get some stolen base stuff. We're hoping to get the age to level thing. And then one thing that I'm going to have John add to the page is the batter versus pitch groups. So that shows you, like, for instance, like if you got a Jordan Lawler who has like ridiculous stats, you can see that he's only good against fastballs and sucks against breaking balls. So that'll help you evaluate like how
I
a
have that.
hitter might pop. Yes, I want that on the main page. But hopefully we
You
can get
can
that
go
on the
here.
page
Beavers
here.
P group. Who'd you say?
Look at Jordan Lawler. This is like the prime example for this last year of a guy who is like really good against fastballs and sucks against breakers.
Yeah,
So
wow.
yeah, 709 slug against fastballs, 424 on breakers, 179 on off speed. Guy
I'm
can't hit a
guessing.
changeup to save his life.
I'm guessing he didn't see a lot of fastballs in his short time in the majors.
No, that's why he only hit like 100 in the in the
Wow.
majors. So
Okay,
that's
so
why
that is here. That is here, but
yeah.
we can integrate it.
Yeah, I want to integrate it into the main page just so you can kind of see it next to the F scores because I think that that'll visually like help put some things into context on like how well a guy is going to do when they actually get promoted to the majors from just having the minor league data. Number one is Caleb Bonemer. This is a top 25 guy for me. I love Caleb Bonemer, so we can bring him up here and show how he's doing on the F scores. But Bonemer is one of the more underrated guys. We talked about him as a breakout in the last pod that we did with Doc. Which was not officially one of these pods, prospect warehouse pod, but that was one that we did on your normal pod stream. But you can see here, Bonemer, 120 power, 100 hit, 112 discipline, 161 speed, like 125, like just like above average, like hit average hit tool above average at everything else. That guy's going to be a stud. So, and guess what? He's going to get an age to level bump too. Because he was playing at high A at the end of the year here. So he'll get a nice little age to level bump when we factor that one in too.
He's in the top 10 overall here. This is still also, this might get tweaked and stuff, but here, what you can do here for the grading is there's select a minimum plate appearance threshold just to see if you want more stable grades, get higher sample sizes. No matter what year you pick, it's not going to change the S scores based on the year because I just have one number for everybody. But you can go here and say, okay, show me everybody that has a significant sample and show me their S scores and sort them like that. And we see Bonemer here at numbers 8, 9. So
yeah. So Caleb Bonemer, awesome dude. He is actually still like available in leagues that are not like where you don't have tons of prospects. I added him in a home league that I have where you only get like 5 minor leaguers, and he was still available. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
but not next year, right? Isn't it going to be 2027?
He was in high A, so he's a while away. So like next year for him, probably it's high A with the promotion to double A at some point, and then 2020 it might be 2028 for him. I mean, he's only 19, so we'll see if it's 2027, 2028. So he's a little ways away, but you know, it all depends on your league context when you're playing Dynasty. It's like, okay, is this a salary league? Is their salary going to go up the longer that I hold him, or is it a league where it's like you just buy a guy and you can hold him forever? So it all kind of depends on the format of the Dynasty League. That's one of the fun things with Dynasty is that there's like so much flexibility between formats. So,
all right. And the White Sox, man, I mean, they could have a good offense next year. They finished pretty well. Kyle Teal kind of broke out. Colson Montgomery, obviously. Do you have any takes on Colson Montgomery for like redraft next year? Because it seems like so scary to me with the strikeout rate and just kind of the crazy success he had at the beginning, and then he kind of trailed off. I don't think he finished well at all. So do you think he's a top 10 shortstop for next year in just normal fantasy or no?
No, I compare him to lefty Paul DeYoung, basically, where it's like, oh, nice little barrage of homers here. Like he's got power, but his plate skills are terrible. I don't necessarily trust them. But the White Sox did need a guy like that because a lot of their other guys are like good hit plate skill guys with like power and speed. So they kind of need that in the middle of the lineup because they don't have any power on that team. Like Jose Abreu, who's like their last power guy, and it's been 4 or 5 years or something since he's been there. But yeah, I think the White Sox are doing much better at developing guys lately. Their farm system looks a lot stronger. So despite them being the worst team in baseball, which is why we started with them, we're starting with the worst teams.
Second worst.
Despite them being second worst, yeah, to the Rockies. So despite them being one of the 2 worst teams in baseball, their farm system is actually looking kind of promising, especially on the pitching front. Like a lot of those pitchers are probably guys that are going to be up in the next year or so. So I think like pitching wise, like they could have a pretty fun rotation by the end of next season. And like Bonemer is probably not going to be up, but it's possible that like Montgomery's up. Mydroth is an interesting guy that they have. Vargas was looking pretty good. Like they were turning him around. So they've got an interesting young core here. And it's going to be about like putting stars around them because I don't really see superstars on this team besides maybe like a Bonemer. But they need to go out and spend some money on like a couple big free agent hitters. I think like it would be a boon if they could convince like a Pete Alonso or something to sign there and be like, yo, we need an anchor. We'll pay you like a lot of extra money to come to our crappy team and like anchor our lineup for the next. Because
not
like,
gonna happen, right?
well, I mean, who knows? I mean, like, you kind of need to go after a guy who's like aging and was underpaid last year. Like Alonso is a guy that they could probably could get to come there if they pay him like $30 million. And they're like, hey, we'll sign you for 150 for 5 years because the Mets aren't going to pay him that or something like that. So, just as an example.
So do you have organization rankings yet?
No, not total org rankings because I'm actually still going through and ranking guys. I'm probably 60% of the way of going through and putting my top 20 prospects per org together.
Do you have any idea where the White Sox would be? Are they top half or?
I want to say they're in the middle. They're in the middle, which is good for a team that is like on the very bottom of their major league. So it shows that they're going to at least be trending up.
Yeah.
Like unlike the Angels, like the Angels are a team that has a bad major league team and a bad system. So like at least the White Sox have like a decent system that is trending upwards.
Who's the top few
for systems?
Yeah.
Okay. We got Brewers are a really strong system. Diamondbacks are a really strong system. Rays, Tigers, Twins are really strong systems. A's are pretty good. Your Pirates are really top heavy. Pirates are like, they're not deep, but they have like the top of the Pirate system is insane. Because
I'm actually not. We got to stop saying my Pirates. I got to officially cut this, man. I mean, the latest thing. Did you see this thing about the guy that fell over the Clemente wall all drunk? Some 20-year-old gets hammered at a game, falls onto the field, lands on his back, and so he's fine. Like no one's saying that he should. Like I wish he would have gotten like killed or anything like that. Like I'm glad he's okay. That's not the problem. Whatever. Underage drinking, like if I condemned everybody that ever did that, I wouldn't have any friends. And I wouldn't. You get it. But then the Pirates freaking let him throw out the first pitch at a game later because they're like, look, he's okay, and that's nice story. Like everybody was kind of concerned about him, and it was it's like, oh, that was really scary. That guy could have died, and now he's okay. Nice story. But the reason he got hurt is because he was absolutely hammered out of his mind, underage. I don't even know if that makes it any better or worse. But he was like breaking the law, did this really stupid thing, and then it turns out now another story comes out about how he was trying to like break into his ex-girlfriend's house all drunk like at 3:30 in the morning a couple weeks ago, and like this is the kind of thing that I don't know. I'm being overly emotional about it for sure, but if I'm going to be funny at all, I've got to show some of this rare emotion. But what are you doing? Letting this guy throw out the first pitch after that? It's just crazy. I'm sure there was some kind of lawsuit threat involved and something like that, but it's just another thing that makes you like, what are the Pirates doing? They're going to completely waste the Skeens, Jones, Bubba Chandler rotation the next couple of years. Like, if they fire their pitching coach, like they had a good pitching staff. I'm not going to say that was all because I don't know. Just nothing about it makes sense, and that's fine. I understand that not every team is in it to win, and there's incentives that make that a reality. But I don't know.
You can't even blame Sherrington. Like people are like, oh, the Pirates should fire him. Like, you really blame him? He's actually drafted pretty well. Minors, and if the owner doesn't let him spend, then that's not his fault. He's handcuffed. So like, what are you gonna do? So like, I think like anyone who's like, oh, fire Ben Sherrington, I think that's ridiculous, because it's not his fault that they haven't extended Skeens. You know what I mean? That's not on him. But yeah, I don't know. I think the next couple of years for the Pirates are going to be very important because it's going to be like, okay, how aggressive are they going to be with Connor Griffin? Because they were not aggressive at all with Bubba Chandler. So how aggressive are they going to be with Connor Griffin? Can you extend Skeens and actually like build a core? Because if you don't extend a core, then like, what do you have here? Then what are you? Are you just going to be the Tampa Bay Rays? And you're just going to like be, a feeder team or whatever? Like, what are you going to do here? You're going to be a feeder team? Are you going to be the Yankees feeder team? Because that's kind of how they've been the last.
Would Skeens even take it? I mean, people like to blame the Pirates. They won't extend it, but maybe he's not even listening. I don't know why. I mean, I guess you can take your money when you can.
They'd have to, they got to pay him buku bucks, man. Like if you're a pitcher and someone's going to offer you a decent, like a really good long-term deal, you take it because all it takes is a Strasburg thing, like thoracic outlet syndrome, and you're done. Or Tommy John, and you're sitting on the bench for a year and a half. Wouldn't you rather make $30 million a year recovering from Tommy John instead of
so you would have to say that I think nobody in Pittsburgh, if you asked everybody in Pittsburgh what's the most likely team that Paul Skeens pitches for in the year 2030 after his free, whatever the first year after, almost none of them would say the Pirates, but I think rationally we would have to say the Pirates are the favorite because they're the team that gets the chance to actually give him the contract first.
Yes. I mean, the thing to think about is like how many people thought that the Blue Jays were going to extend Vlad?
Right.
Like probably not a lot of people thought
Took them
that.
forever too. They like at midnight they did it.
Yeah, they worked it though. So I don't know. Maybe they can work something. It's all on the owner. So
All right.
anything
Covered
else?
the White Sox though. That's a good start. We got 29 more of these. I'll let Tim do the finish because you're the host. But just to
Rockies.
know that. Oh yeah, thought it would be good. Tim might be doing some of these by himself, but me and Doc will chime in. It's always a little bit better with two people. But this is a good start.
Yep, we're gonna have someone on with me every time. So whether it's Doc, whether it's John, or whether I bring in a ringer who's like a writer or a fan or whatever, like prospect guy for that team, we're gonna have someone on for every team. The goal is to do 2 of these a week as we're progressing here, because like I told John when he's like, "Oh, you want to wait until like December when I do the other the team write-ups and we'll release them at the same time?" I'm like, I'm not going to podcast every day, so that's not going to happen. So let's do a couple a week, and we're going to give you some content during the off season so that you can enjoy baseball all year long. Yes. So next is the Colorado Rockies. We'll talk some Ethan Holiday. The Rockies actually have some fun guys to talk about, so don't you skip that one. We got some fun guys for the Rockies. They've got
and I'll have
decent names to talk about.
By November, my 26 team previews focus on the major leagues will come out too, and then we'll I'll join those two together so you can revisit all this and just take your time going through each organization and really get ready, be the most prepared for next season.
Yep, exactly. So that's a podcast. We don't have an outro for this one yet, but follow John at JohnPGH, follow me at Fantasy Aceball, and subscribe to the tool so you can have all this beautiful data at your fingertips. It takes John a lot of time to code this stuff. And so, you gotta, time is money. You got to pay a man for his time. So, yes. That's why it's behind the paywall. It's worth it. You're going to win your leagues if you have this data versus the people who don't. Because
it is the best.
I haven't way more stuff than Fangraphs.
I haven't seen a minor league dashboard like I have. I haven't looked around too much, but I don't think anybody has these kind of dashboards and stuff where you can get it all in one place. So shout out to me.
There isn't one, and this is the only place you can get F scores on top of it. So go sign up, go subscribe. It's worth the money, and you want to do the annual, better bang for buck. So peace out, everybody. See you next time.
Bye-bye.